Yeah, I feel I like that passage or that little exchange between the father and the daughter, because I think that it does sort of get at what you're saying. Is like, okay, well, no, like there is so much loss, there is so much you know, fragmentation, and that things that can't be recuperated. But there also is it's not necessarily something that should be, you know, we should feel despondent about, but that there is a, you know, a positive and way to deal with that, which is to try and recuperate that and try and consistently.
But I see here it was like a father wanted to closer contact with her, so he knew she was area with poetry, so yeah. In this way, okay, I will do it, you will edit it, yeah. So maybe closer, so it was also maybe this element. Yeah. But I was fascinated by the boat. How is just this? Because I found that this like a, okay, dysfunctional family later, okay, collapse. But like a father was trying like an idea fix, just the boat, let will be access for the all together, so his wife was like it at the beginning, but finally devaluated, but probably those kids also like it, so it was built on this. Like we had a family before, it was based on this survival. That was nowadays what is our goal and other, so higher level, because we don't have to survive for the food, for, okay, come over winter, healthy, don't, so that's a different one. So now what's the aim for the family, what will be united, realizing. So this boat was like at the beginning, but then it was like a picture, all the pigeons on the left and other, it was not, but at least it was keeping a certain moment all together, okay, we'll do it, we'll travel, we will go, those pictures, but so how much we need in our family lives, those idea fix or real, how to just keep together, so our goals and how to unite. Yeah. So if you have it, and also what I like it quickly, I will say, I've seen it was starting from this author about saying broken relationship. Okay, after 6 years, something like this, New York. Okay, going away, but it was completely not exploited. So I see the novel without what was like a 19th century 20 erotic like this keeping a track. Here completely taken away. So if the author like to exploit this later, it was too much, or just coming to the conclusion is very superficial with this relation with our, more important is our roots, how we were grown with parents, with, okay, siblings and other, those closer, not later. So for me it's astonishing that this element is completely eliminated.
Well, I think that, I mean, I wanted, I mean, the idea of the narrator to be unnamed for one thing, and to have sort of left her life behind, so that she is like she becomes a framing device really for the other stories, and she is sort of an open vessel, if you will, to like for the other stories, and for a sort of openness and exploration of her own past, but also of her experience of the present, which is removed from any circumstantial elements. So then that was important for me that that she didn't, that she at least was, I mean, it's no doubt upon any reflection, I mean, obviously those things haven't left her, but that she has definitely made an attempt to remove herself because of the hard circumstances or whatever that she's come from, remove herself from those, from her own narrative structure in a way, so that, I've set up an idea of a reason that has extricated her from those circumstances. But it was important for me that she be free of those details in a way, so that she was open to sort of explore and receive the details of the other stories. Yeah.
Well, if you would agree, we started in March, and by April they still don't have the book yet. We've been going through different excerpts. And finally, in April, they receive a handout that's actually the very first paragraph of the novel. Would you mind reading
Sure.
that, please?
The house my father left behind in Fargo, North Dakota was never really a house at all. Always, instead, it was an idea of itself, a carpenter's house, a work in progress, so that even after we moved him north to Casablanca and his Fargo home was dragged away, the lot sold to a family from Billings, Montana, my father was always saddened and surprised if the place was remembered irreverently, as if it had been a separate and incidental thing, distinct from the rest of our lives. In this way, he remained, until the end, a house carpenter, of only the way that he looked at things, as if all objects existed in blueprint in different stages of design or repair.
Well, it's interesting. Again, we went through the same process. We've just been talking about parts and pieces and puzzles. One of the seminars read that through once, and the first word that came to mind was bricolage, which in French means taking pieces and parts and trying to put them together. And then they read it a second time, and they wrote this sentence. Early evening, the father slips into something psychologically comfortable, a memory of where he felt a kind of moving belonging, the tools he trusted yielding identity via his usage of them, love trickling believably between weight of place and weight of participation. A building in selective fashion telling more than any opportunity for confession ever had or would have. Then they read it a third time and wrote this paragraph. Quote, a work in progress can exist as a possibility as much as a realization. And this is what makes it so seductive for some people. That is, never ending can be always proceeding with desire and heartfelt intention. No need to argue that completion is the goal, except if you're one of those souls who live for the imagining. The suggestive in the picture always rather tantalizing. Bricolage, that's what Claude Lévi-Strauss related to the type of thinking people who are considered primitive by European cultures are ever so non-primitively doing. Artists of living and media both tend to tally what they do in such a manner, or so I think. The beauty in the process is as important, ultimately, as the actualization. I know this is only slightly true in some cases, yet I understand and identify with the mindset that believes this. And another seminar member, the first word that came to mind for them was process. The first sentence, where's Casablanca? That confused me. The first paragraph, something feels central to your sense of self, with connections and links which you may hold important, but others may not realize or recognize. Others didn't make a bond with the carpentry house, but her father did. And then, reading it a fourth time, a love for process, meaning by doing, all objects on a transition trajectory somewhere. I imagine lots of people, older men mainly, have sheds that are full of odds and ends which are to be formed into some great idea. Of course, they never get there. The aim keeps getting redefined, redefined to extend purpose, redefined to add motivation and excitement. And a third seminar member, the first word that came to mind was dreamer. The first sentence, there are doers and there are thinkers. And the third time they read it, they wrote a paragraph. It is difficult for those who are primarily are thinkers and dreamers to cross the boundary into the world of doers and workers. It is unnatural for them to accomplish anything concrete. I'm hating this as an intellectual. As this passage illustrates so well, these individuals do not see how their inability to finish anything they've started affects those around them. And then reading it a fourth time in a stream of consciousness vein, I must confess that I squirmed reading this one. As if all objects existed in blueprint in different stages of design or repair, end of quote, comes off to me more positively than it was probably intended. What a wonderful, creative gift to see the world that way. It means that what such a person sees in everything is possibility. The irony of the father in question is that his occupation is one that ought to span the divide between designer and laborer. And it is so unfortunate that as a parent, he could not recognize his lack of consideration for his family, who desired a solid and complete home in which to grow up. I have known other men like this. They drive their loved ones nuts. To a certain extent, I'm one of them. This passage really has helped me to see this aspect of myself in relation to those closest to me.
That's a wonderful reading of that passage. Yeah, I really like that about because I did, when I was writing that, I mean, I did, and we've been talking so much about this, like, this tremendous positive side of seeing everything as progress, as process, but then of his role as both father and carpenter, of that spanning that well, how was it put so beautifully, between
divide.
A divide between that and then and
cross the boundary into the world of doers and makers.
That's where a lot of that's really where all of the issues sort of turn in terms of the complicated relationships with the father. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Well, folks, we're down to our last 30 minutes, so I encourage you to ask the unasked question. Please, make the most of it.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Toledo.
Normally when I read books, whatever they may be, it's the focus is on a story, a set of ideas, a set of facts, a set of characters, regardless of whether it's fiction, nonfiction, whatever. My experience of reading this book was that I couldn't stop thinking about my own story. It's like I just came to all of these pauses where I was reflecting on childhood, young adulthood, the whole people and ghosts of my past and so forth. And I was just wondering if that was your intention, or if you are aware of that effect that your book has on people.
I just I tell you that just hearing you say that just means so much to me. Like so that evidently, yes, I think that I must have been aware that was my intention, or it was my because when you say that, I was just like, oh, good, thank you. So I think. Or that, as we've been talking about, of just having it be, and I think that to me, and maybe it's so nice to hear you say that, because it does affirm for me in any way. So how I talked about this narrator, and how I did want her to be unnamed, and I did want her to be sort of extricated from the narrative trappings of her own life. That I think that my ambition in doing that was that she might sort of, we could come at, like that readers could come to sit behind her eyes a little bit more and experience that, and that maybe that would be a way of